This is breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Renee Summerhour with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. We're here to talk about a special Review-Journal investigation of discipline issues in the Henderson Police Department. Our investigation found that officers with years of sustained citizen complaints, allegations of sexual misconduct, or criminal arrests are still working, and some have been promoted. We looked at data going back as early as 20 years ago, and we found that about 40 Henderson officers had 10 or more sustained allegations of misconduct filed against them, and 6 of them resigned or were terminated. Michael Quine has more on this video as we're about to show you, but this investigation was a team effort. Reporter Art Kane and, again, videographer Michael Quine and Ben Hager all put together this video to summarize some of the findings. Take a look.
New internal affairs records from the Henderson Police Department show some officers have amassed years of misconduct complaints but face few serious consequences. Like Sergeant Michael Gillis, who beat Sportsman's Warehouse employee James Herndon in 2018 while Herndon was helping to stop a shoplifting suspect.
We had a suspected shoplifter. At some point, the shoplifter dropped what appeared to be a firearm, so the Henderson police were called. He did not comply with their demands to stop and freeze. He ended up falling near me. I did not see the police in pursuit, so I made the decision to basically jump on him and not let him get up because he had a gun. I don't know if I was being kicked or punched with a closed fist. At some point, someone struck me in the head with an object. I don't know. I learned later it was a rifle. All I saw was a bright flash.
Herndon, who used to work as a game warden, is suing Gillis and other Henderson officers for excessive force. As a law enforcement, is that an appropriate technique?
Based on my previous experience in law enforcement, it is not appropriate to use your rifle as an impact tool. I don't think you will find a use of force instructor anywhere that says it's okay to do that.
Later you learn that the guy who was using the rifle had used it before as a similar weapon, correct, as a blunt weapon, has a history of everything from domestic violence to steroid use to allowing friends to get off on traffic tickets. Were you surprised when you learned what this guy's history was and that he's still in the force?
Well, it was a surprise. I mean, I hadn't had an incident like this in 21 years in law enforcement myself, but I think a person with his time on and presumably his rank and all that, he should have known better.
Henderson Police Internal Affairs dismissed Herndon's complaint.
And I just thought that, they'll look into it, they'll find out it was messed up, and they will do something.
Gillis's co-worker, Lieutenant Brett Seacatz, also has a long history of complaints going back to 2003. In 2010, he was caught on video kicking a motorist who was having a diabetic seizure. Internal Affairs found Seacatz used unnecessary force when he repeatedly kicked driver Adam Green in the face while Green was suffering a diabetic episode.
All right, we found some insulin in his pocket.
But Seacatz has been repeatedly promoted.
In no other position would you be allowed to get away with significant misconduct and maintain your position.
Atar Hazibullah is executive director of the Nevada ACLU. These files that I did receive show patterns, 10, 20, 30 complaints, many sustained, many personal issues like domestic violence, sexual misconduct, things like that aren't even part of their duties. Continue to keep their jobs. A couple of them were promoted.
It really begs a question of whether or not the systems that have been put in place have been done so to protect civilians instead of law enforcement officers.
Green's attorney said Henderson officials promised to keep Seacatz off the street, but last year Internal Affairs cited him for threatening Khalil Carter while serving an arrest warrant.
Fortunately for you, everything's recorded, so I will be vindicated.
And turning off the audio on his body camera.
No longer muted.
In 3 years that I've been here, Lieutenant Seacatz has done his job. He's done his job according to our policies and our procedures. And when that has not happened, he's been held accountable.
Cedric Andres was appointed Henderson Police Chief in 2019.
What I can say right now is that we are one of the most premier agencies that's continuing to provide training and that we look at discipline cases.
So it's really a whole system of discipline that Henderson has set up you don't feel is effective in protecting people.
Correct. The whole thing could have played out the way it did. The guy could have gotten arrested, and I wouldn't have gotten beat up if it had been handled correctly. Or it could have been worse. I could have been, hit me one more time, like you said, in the right spot. I may not even be here.
Sergeant Gillis retired a few months after the incident at Sportsman's Warehouse, but Seacats remains on the force. Both men declined comment for the story.
Now, yesterday I spoke with Art Kane to learn more about what he found out over the course of this investigation, including what you can do if you have a complaint.
Well, I think one of the main takeaways is that these records, while public under state law, or at least not exempt under state law, most of the departments refuse to release them, saying there's court rulings that help allow them to keep them private. Well, I think the question there is shouldn't the taxpayers who pay these people's salaries and benefits, some who make a lot of money, be able to find out what they're doing and what kind of discipline they're facing when they do something wrong? As far as legislation, other states have released these kind of records, made them public in a lot of cases, California, New York. Nevada hasn't, and the legislature could quickly come in and just say, look, internal affairs files are public. People should be able to see what the officers are doing and how they're disciplined if they do something wrong. Another officer named Sergeant Michael Gillis is caught on video using a rifle to hit a man who was helping them apprehend a shoplifter at the Sportsman's Warehouse. He had previously been cited for using a rifle in the very same way. He's also been arrested for hitting his girlfriend, not charged, but not convicted, but IA found that he did something wrong in that incident. He was investigated for using steroids, found not. They didn't find that he did, even though the doctors said that he was using the drugs that weren't prescribed to him. But just a series of complaints with him. He retired with $117,000 salary. Then you have an officer who was fired, but only after 10 years of misconduct, like hiring prostitutes, hitting on women while on the job, having inappropriate relationships with women he met on police calls. And then he finally got fired in 2014 for setting up 3 people on DUI charges when they weren't drunk or they weren't driving. But it took a decade. And then you have Darius Brown, who's a corrections officer. He's been arrested twice, once for DUI, once for battery when he had a conflict with a neighbor. The DUI, he was fired, but then an arbitrator reinstated him. And then he had an extensive sexual harassment complaint by a woman who works at the jail with him, where he was sending her nude pictures of himself and making really inappropriate texts and tweets. He remains on the job at the Henderson jail. So if you have a problem with a police officer and you think he or she acted inappropriately, you should contact the department and file an internal affairs complaint. They will investigate and they will tell you what happens with it. Sometimes their investigations can be flawed, as the title of the story goes, but at least you have on the record what happened and you have somebody looking into it. If it's a severe case, you can hire an attorney or call the ACLU. There also is a bill going through the legislature right now that allows the Attorney General to look at patterns of civil rights complaints in a police department. And if that passes, that may be another layer of reviews.
So this week, each of these stories will be brought to the forefront. And if you are a Review Journal subscriber, you can read the full report, Flawed Discipline, right now on lvrj.com. And of course, we will have updates for you on all the days and today's following events. Just stay tuned with us for 7 at 7 p.m. this evening. You can also download our free RJ mobile app to get these types of news alerts sent straight to your phone. And of course, you can find us on Roku, Apple TV, and all of your favorite digital platforms. I'm Renee Summerhour. Thank you for watching.
You've been watching breaking news from the Las Vegas Review Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.